Hi everyone, and welcome to the final installment of my build of Dragon's M48A3 in the Vietnam style. Now in this episode we're going to be wrapping everything up. We're going to be looking at OPR, which is oil paint rendering, as a form of using oils to create your weathering look. So if that's something of interest to you, then please feel free to grab a chair and let's go do some modeling. Now, first of all, we use quite a large amount of oils. Need to get a nice color palette to enable to mix and match and get some nice tones. As you can see, I use primarily Winsor and Newton, but there's also some Abteilung 501s and some other ones in there as well. And what you want to do is get a nice color range of your darks and your lights, using a piece of cardboard because this sucks out the linseed oil, which allows the oils to dry a lot quicker on your model. And what we now are going to be doing for quite a large part of this video is that I'm going to be going through the processes, warts and all, some mistakes, so you can see how I handle those and how I cope, but primarily show you the basics of oil paint rendering. Now, this palette has been stored in the fridge for the last couple of days. The reason I put it in the fridge is that it makes the oils last that little bit longer. But what you do need before you start is just to reactivate them by putting a little bit of thinner on them, and then that allows you to be able to start mixing them up. So what I want to do is to put an initial dust layer down. What I want to do is use the sort of Vietnam red dust that some of these tanks came across. But what I don't want to do is to be really harsh with the redness. So what I'm doing is that I'm blending in with some of the lighter dust colors as well. And when I'm happy, then I will use this as an initial wash. Now, what we want to do is always start from light and go to dark. And that's why we're doing the lighter colors. And what you want to do is use quite a bit of thinner. So what you're effectively doing is applying a wash. Now you'll have two types of brush. One here, which I'm using, is the applicator brush. And then in a moment, once I've put all the oils on, I'll then use a blending brush. Now, try and mix in colors as you go, so you get a variety of the actual color, so you don't get that sort of stagnant all over color that you do see on some other models. The key here is to create a realistic look and create variety as you go. So as you can see here, I'm using a little bit more of the dust color to complement that redder color. And again, I'm just randomly placing it over the actual model where I feel that the dust is going to be accumulating, using small amounts of thinner as I go, so that when I do come to the blending stage, then this actual color application is still quite thin and hasn't dried out, and therefore that will make life easier for blending. So I'm just working, as you can see, around the palette using different parts of the color just to add a variety, as I've already mentioned. So once that's done, it's then a matter of blending it in. As you can see, I've got a little bit of Tamiya tape on this brush, which therefore shows me that this is actually a blending brush. And here I'm actually sort of dabbing, taking off the excess, because you don't want to flood the model with color at this stage. You want to try and keep that original color, but just to also create that dust level as well. You can also see I'm starting to do some streaking motions as well, and at all times taking off that excess. Now the actual rear telephone box here was an in-field application, so I'm just wanting to do that in a little bit different color, so that will stand out more prominently to the rest of the tank. Here we're doing a streaking motion, just to get a general background of streaks. And when you get a really nice one, don't play with it, just leave it there, and you can enhance and add to that later on. But all of the vertical planes is a vertical motion, and all of the horizontal planes is a sort of stabbing, blending motion with the brush. And just work your way around. If the paint has or the oils have dried too much during this period, then moisten your brush to reactivate the oil, but you must not flood the model, otherwise you will have oils running around all over the place. So it's very important to make sure that the texture of the oils is correct, and this is one of the reasons for using the white tissue there, so you know the thickness and the opacity of the oil. You can just test it on your brush before you start. But this is very much a matter of just laying down that initial dust layer. You'll also notice I'm just doing one particular part of the tank. This is how I operate. I'll do one area. I will fully OPR oil paint render that particular area. Then if I, for whatever reason, have to go away for a day or two, I can come back and I can see what my thought process is. Now, this is one of my favorite brush is. It's very soft brush, and just with a simple dabbing motion, that really does blend out that initial dust color. Again, taking off excess as I go. Now, once that's done, because I do this all at once, it's a matter of drying out those oils in between. So use the hairdryer on a low heat and don't get too close, because as you've seen from past experience, I have unfortunately melted plastic. So be very careful when using the hairdryer. Now, as I said before, I'm now enhancing those initial streaks by using a streaking brush. I've dipped it in thinner. I've taken off the majority of the thinner. So it's hardly wet at all, and that's the key. And then what you can do, this is a form of blending, but obviously in a streaking motion, again, going through all of the vertical planes to create those nice streaking effects. What is also key is if you do see any tide marks or any build-up of color, then this blending phase is always the ideal opportunity to get rid of that. You do not want to leave that to go dry. You can get rid of it maybe a day or two later, but it is quite a job. So always blend out all of your oil work before you finish your session. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a small layer of speckles. Again, the whole of the key to oil paint rendering is to build up layers, build up interest as you go. Now, because this is the first layer, we want the opacity to be very weak. So it's like a little wash, and just very gently, as you can see, just adding a few specks here and there, going from front to back. And then once the majority of the speckling has been done, there's still a little bit of residue left on the stirrer, and now you can go quicker and create more of a smaller amount of speckling, and therefore you've got a nice balance of large and small speckles across the actual area you're doing. Now, as you can see, I can see from here that some of those speckles are far too large. So what we do now is go back in with a very dry but slightly moist blending brush and just gently dab that, and that allows that speckle to dissipate but not to ruin the area around it as well. And it's your build, so do this in whatever way you wish to create the look that you're after. But remember, this is just the first layer of many speckling layers that will occur during the OPR process. And again, once you've done this, then it's out with the hairdryer to dry it all out to enable you to then move on to the next layer. The hair drying layer interval is very important because it does dry out, because otherwise you're going to find that you're just blending oils all together and it all just turns into one big muck. So always make sure that each level is completely dry before you start doing the next level. So now with that done, what we're going to do is add on another dust wash, but this time we're going to have a hint of green in it. And we want to try and bring back a little bit of that color. So again, not going anywhere near the reds, but we're going to be introducing the green into the dust, and we want to be more dust than we do green. A little bit of hint of red, but predominantly it is going to be a dust green level. And again, going for the similar type of consistency, probably a little bit more opaque this time. So again, you're going to have to be a little bit careful here to make sure this doesn't dry out. If you're unsure, then just do what I'm doing now, which is to actually apply the wash, and then you can quickly go in with the blending brush. But if you're confident, then you're happy to, then you can just do the whole area with the applicator and then go back in with the blending brush after. So this time I'm trying to be a little bit more precise, adding this color more to the edges, to the areas around the handles, etc. And what we're trying to do is just to build up the color, try and get a little bit of that green look back in. As you can see here, I've added more green because again, I want this particular part of the tank to stand out more than the other, to again show that it is an on-field addition. And I'm being a lot more precise with where I'm placing the paint this time. And this will help me when I actually come round to do the blending. And I'm just going to try and focus in a little bit more here for you with the camera, so you can get a little bit more of a close-up look. Not forgetting the vertical as well as the horizontal planes. So with the back box done, it's now a matter of going with a slightly lighter color and doing the other front boxes. But the key here for variety of color is to make sure that you do have a mix of colors on your palette, rather than just doing a one tone all the time. And we're starting to build up the areas now where we'll be doing pin washes later. And try and get into all the crevices as well. And then once that's done, we're going in with a slightly softer blending brush this time. And we're blending that all out. As you can see, I'm not taking so much off this time because it was more of a slightly thicker wash that I used. And it's obviously dried out a little bit as well. But again, any excess, then just take it off with the use of the towels. But we're now getting that nice color interchange between the slightly redder dust level and the slightly greener dust level, creating this nice effect. You'll also notice I haven't touched the rear mudguard as well, because I want to keep that more of a muddy, dusty look. And again, where I can, I'm just adding to that streaking levels on the vertical planes. Now I am just showing you this one particular area, go through the whole process, but once that's done, I just then move on to the middle, then I move on to the left side and just work my way all around the tank over a course of a few sessions. And then once done, you just repeat the process on the turret as well. So with the dust levels done there, what I want to do now is add a slightly more opaque speckling with an actual light dust color. And again, very slowly with the first few, to get the large droplets done. And then once most of the paint has come off of the stirrer, then go back in with a quicker motion, creating the smaller speckles. And there we have it. Slightly more precise, and we're getting a nice difference of texture and color. So now with the light colors done, don't forget I would have used the hairdryer here to dry that all out. We're now starting with the darker colors. So we're using the raw umbers and the raw siennas, and we're using some of the greens that we have here, um, and then mix it in, a little bit of red, a little bit of dust as well. Now, it took me a little bit of time to get the color shade that I wanted, but once it's done, it's on the palette, and then we can go in and start doing that wash work again like we did with the other colors. So here we're going in a little bit lighter, but we're doing more of a pin wash, as you can see now. And we're going around all of the hooks and all of the areas where the dirt and that will gather. But what's the difference with this pin wash than what you would probably be used to is that once I've gone in and done this, I am then going to go and blend it all out as well. It won't be till the final pin wash that I do not do any blending. And we just want to really think about where the dirt will accumulate and all the ridges and all the grooves. And again, because we've used the hairdryer, we're not taking up what has already been put down. And as you can see, I'm being very gentle. I'm not rubbing or trying to strongly use any strong oil here. It's all washes, allowing those other layers to stay where they are. Again, try and get into the recesses. Add a little bit more red there just to break up the colour. Just keep mixing as you're going, just to add that variety of colour and interest. I don't want to add on too much on the rear mudguard because I want to try and keep that as dusty as possible. So we'll just touch the outsides. Now again, when this is done, you don't need to use the hairdryer because you need to blend it out first. And again, if you found that some of it has dried during the process, then just use a nearly dry, slightly moist brush to help with the blending process. Now I've gone a little bit more darker in that area because that's where the fuel cap is. And here we go again. We're just blending out and taking off the excess as we go. Again, making sure that you remove any pools of wash. And we're just touching the outsides because we want to keep the sort of dusty look on the inside of each panel. And a few streaks as we go. Again, it's the same as what we did with the other dust levels. But as you can see now, we're just starting that process of going from light to dark. And again, once this blending section has been done, it will be out with the hairdryer to dry this level out completely before we add on some of the speckles. Now I don't do any green speckling, it will just purely now be dirt, so the darker colours will be used. But hopefully now you can see the effect of the darker layers on top of the dust layers, creating that really nice weathered look. So here we go with the hairdryer, just checking it's not too hot. And we'll get that all dried out. So again, once that's done, we're now going to do some of those speckles. Again, you want a nice bit of opacity. And you can see I'm starting to mix in some of the burnt sepia now. Sorry, not burnt, just dark sepia. We also have warm sepia there as well. And this time we're actually doing a pin wash. So this won't be blended out unless I make a mistake. And this will create that final dark pin wash that you're probably used to seeing on your models. Now this is very precise, and it's key that you make sure that you have the right consistency with the wash, so that using the capillary action will actually feed down all of the joins. That end area is where the fuel cap is again, so that's going to be a lot darker than maybe up at the end. Always remember to use your reference photos. There's plenty of them, and that will help you decide where you need your colouring to go. These are the hinges of the actual panel there. And then we're going back onto the phone box at the back. Apologies if the video isn't 100%. What I wanted to do is just to give you an idea of the process, warts and all. So there may be times where, like now, you can't quite see what I'm doing, or if it's out of focus. My apologies for that. But hopefully you're getting an idea of what's going on. So while we're there, we're going to do some of that speckling I talked about earlier. Same processes as before. Try not to go too over the top with the dark colours, and make sure that they're more translucent. And remember to always to clean out your brushes as well as you go. A little bit of blending, no need to go over the top here. Just basically just cleaning up the areas. And this is very much a dry brush. You don't want any moisture on this at all. You don't want to disturb the pin wash. You really are just touching the outer areas. And there we go, just doing a little bit of touch up on the rear mudguard and also the telephone box. And as you can see, continually trying to get into those recesses, because it's amazed how much the viewer can actually see of your work when they look close up. So again, out with the hairdryer, dry that all out. And now what we're going to do is add on the pigments. From earlier in the videos, you'll know that this is a pigment mix of the red Vietnam with a little bit of concrete ballast pigment in there as well. Now, to me, this is where the guys are going to be getting up onto the turret from the side of the tank. So there's going to be a lot of walking around on top of these black boxes. So that's the reason for putting some of the pigments in. And then what we're going to do is just add some down on the actual fenders themselves, just to show where it's built up. Now we want to try and add this in loose, because we got some nice larger parts of the pigment here, because it was coarse pigment that I used, and that will create a nice effect of the build up. If you want to, I haven't done it on this one, but if you want to, you can add some leaves, etc. at this stage. Now, using Tamiya lacquer thinner and a pipette. Now, be careful, because once you use this stuff, that's it. Once it's dried, it is stuck on, and you'll have trouble removing it. And then again, using capillary action, just get a little drop. There we go. If you flood it, you're just going to wash away all of that pigment. So be very careful and just let it run its course, and it will go around all of the areas for you. So at this stage, everything was going really well, very pleased. And then we had a tidal wave disaster. My cup holder decided to explode for whatever reason, and that created a wave of thinner that jumped out and went all over the tank, as you can see here. Now, when this happens, do not touch it. Soak it up as best as you possibly can, but do not try to rub it or anything like that. And it took a few days for it all to dry out. I lost a couple of pieces because it's quite corrosive, the thinner, ate through the glue. So a few things had to be added back on again. But then it was just a matter of redoing the dust, and then we could crack on with the final stages. Now, for me, this is one of my favorite stages, is where we're going to be doing a bit of dry brushing. So there's no thinner involved at all now. And we're just mixing in the color, and what we're going to do is just kiss the edges. It just brings back a little bit of that original color to the build. Do not go over the top with this. Like I say, you are just kissing the edges. You don't want a lot of oil on there at all. And then once that has been done, it's a matter of getting your blending brush and just very gently blending this color in. But as I said before, do not have any thinner at all in this particular process, because it does ruin the effect. That includes the blending brush as well. So again, I use my favorite soft brush, and we'll just blend that out. Again, no thinner applied whatsoever. And it just gives that nice little effect at the end. Also gives you a chance to have a closer look at how it's all looking. See, with the way the dust has been redone. I was very fortunate that I was able to carry on with the model after that accident. All very good now. So there you go. And again, it always looks different after a couple of days once it's dried. Um, Now, I'm not a massive fan of using the metallic pencil, but in this case, on the reference photos, there were some examples. So I just do it in one or two areas, predominantly the wear on the handles and on the grab bars. Other than that, very little, because it can be quite overpowering. But yeah, once that was done, that was pretty well much it. Very pleased with how that's done. And like I say, you've now got an idea of my processes, and it was a matter of repeating those processes over the rest of the tank. But let's have a quick close-up view for you. And here are some of the stills. Now the tracks. And the top one, I haven't touched. The bottom one, I've put a bit of a dust wash on. Just wanted to take the harshness of the black away. I was really pleased with how that turned out. And then we went over with some raw umber and burnt umber. Again, the bottom one's the one that's had the ores. And as you can see with the speckling as well, we've also done a little bit of the pencil work on the little join parts. And all in all, very pleased indeed with how those have turned out. No complaints whatsoever, and looking forward to putting those on the tank. leave you a couple of stills so you can see that in more detail if you wish. Now, obviously, we've done the OPR on the underneath as well as the wheels. Now, with the wheels, I basically divided it into four. So some had light dust, some had readier dust, some had no dust, and some just had oil washes. And that just gave me a nice variety of wheels. The sprockets came out incredibly well. I was really pleased with those. Again, using the same process as we've already talked about before. This time I added a little bit of dark oil onto the wheels. Again, what I usually do is just lighten them up with dust colors, but this time I added on some dark splotches as well, um, which I was really pleased with, gave that nice finish. What I will try and do now is just go in a little bit closer so you can see the effect of the oils and the dust, how it builds up. Yeah, there we go, that's better. And gives you that nice, realistic look of mud and dust. And also give you a close up on those wheels as well. So, all in all, very pleased with how the wheels turned out. And don't forget the support wheels as well. Same process, but there we go. There's the result of the four different types of wheel that I talked about earlier, and some close ups of those sprockets as well. Now, the same process was done on the lower hull, going from light to dark. Added a few little darker streaks coming down, some more oily bits on the connectors, as you can see there, and the springs. So really pleased with how that all came out. And then it was a matter of putting on the tracks, which is always the worst part of any build. I actually glue the wheels on first, leaving the sprocket off. And then I actually use that sprocket to actually help tighten the actual track. So as you can see, these all glued on now. The underside came out really well as well. And there we have that variety. We'll always do the backside of your wheels as well, because they can always be seen. I'll just leave you a few stills before we actually look at putting the tracks on themselves. Now, these tracks, if you look at your reference photos, are very tight, very straight. So to enable me to do that, what I needed to do first off was to make sure it was completely secure on the sprocket. And then it was a matter of going around to every single track link and trying to straighten them up as best as I possibly could to help create that rigid look. All in all, it was okay. Probably 98% of it I was happy with. There was a couple of little dodgy bits here and there, but overall it was fine. But this was my major problem. I had about half a link of sag, which is a real pain in the backside, and I had to try and lose that elsewhere on the model. But in the end, we got there. As you can see at the bottom, the two lighter color links, that was where the connectors were, and those were painted up and weathered. So there we have it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you got a good idea of the processes that I use, using pigments and using oils to create a layering effect that gives you this overall weathered look. Now, as always, you'll have this close-up video of the build, and there will be copious photos at the end showing you the model from afar, as some really nice close-up photos as well. So, it's been a wonderful build. I've only been able to do it because of your help and support along the way. So, a massive thank you to all of my subscribers, old and new. Many thanks for your continued support. And in the meantime, keep modeling.